Discovered that my half-sibling is actually my full sibling. Now I'm struggling to move forward. Am I wrong? I think I need to provide context on this one. Hello, my 25F parents divorced when I was 3. They just didn't think they loved each other anymore and started dating other people. My mom got married after 2 years when I was 5 and gave birth to my half-brother 2 years after that. My father married when I was 11, but they didn't have any kids. I live with my mom on work days and live on weekends with my dad. I have a very good and healthy relationship with both parents and my brother. I wanted to do those 23andMe tests since the only thing I know about my ancestry is that my dad is Russian. I was talking to my now 18-year-old brother and asked him if he wanted to do it with me, and he said, yeah. So I sent 2 samples to the lab and the results came yesterday. And I opened them, and as the title says, we are full biological siblings. I can't be my stepfather's child because my ancestry obviously indicates that I am half East European Russian and other parts of Europe, which my stepfather clearly isn't, and my half-siblings, well now full sibling, I guess ancestry is similar to my ancestry, so that could only mean that my brother is my dad's son. I really don't see the similarity between him and my dad, but maybe it's because my brother is a twin of my mom. So my mom cheated on my stepfather with my dad after saying that they didn't love each other anymore. What? But I don't want to jump into conclusions, and I will ask my mom about this today when I get out of work, so wish me luck.
Next story.
Thinking about breaking up with my boyfriend. His sister is pushing me to my limits. Posted in another group but wanted to get more options. So I've 21F been dating my bef Chris 24M for the last year. We started off as few but decided to give it a try about 3 months into it. A couple of months ago, he introduced me to his family. I was nervous because I'm not close with my family and he is the complete opposite. I wanted so badly to make a good impression because they mean so much to him. His mom, dad, and 2 younger brothers are great, but it's his older sister that is the problem. I could tell from the first day we met that she hated me. She was cold and slightly standoffish. Now, I'm a huge overthinker, so I just let it go, just assuming that she would warm up to me eventually. His family eventually invited me to family dinners every Saturday night. One dinner, my BF jokingly said that his sister and I should do something together to get to know each other. She said that she would never hang out around me willingly and stormed out. No explanation. The dinner was pretty tense after that, but no one ever acknowledged it. When he dropped me off, I asked about it, and he only said his sister was really protective of him. After that, anytime I was in the room with his sister, she would storm off. The only time she could be in the room with me is for the dinners. Honestly, it was okay with me. So they were talking about their family trip during dinner one night. They asked me if I'd ever been to Cabo, and if I wanted to go. His sister interrupted and asked where I would even sleep. My BF laughed and said I would stay with him in his room. This set her off and she started yelling that it was a family trip and I was trying to steal her brother from his family. We ended up leaving, but again, no explanations, no excuses, and no apologies. After that day, I started to get calls and texts every day from random numbers. The texts were mildly threatening, but nothing too crazy. I didn't even think that it could be his sister until I verified that I would be going with them on the trip last month. This flipped a switch and the texts started to get very scary, basically saying to leave my BF or things would happen. I asked my beef if he thought it could be his sister and he just denied it and said it was probably someone trolling me. He explained his sister is just jealous because he is spending more of his time with me, that she would never do anything like that. It wasn't until I was walking out of work last week and saw my car was keyed with the words home wrecker. I just know it's her, but I don't know how to tell my boyfriend so he'll believe me. Should I go to the police? I don't know what I can even do. I really love him, but I'm scared his sister will do something to me. Also, what if it's not his sister? I don't even know what to think.
Next story. Kicking my sister out of my house after she crossed a line. Now my family says I'm heartless for doing so. My sister's 27F husband died 8 months ago. She and my 2 nieces had to move out of their place because she wasn't going to be able to keep up with rent. She was a stay-at-home mom. And started temporarily staying at different friends' houses. I 31M eventually offered to let her come live with my wife and I while she got back on her feet. It was fine the first couple of months. Obviously, she was grieving and dealing with my nieces grieving the loss of their dad. But now 6 months in, she's becoming difficult to live with. All day, she'll kick her feet up and watch TV while her daughters run around the house making a mess. My wife is now 7 months pregnant with our first child, and because she's at home, she's been the one having to clean up after them, making sure they eat, etc. I talked to my sister many times about this, but she'd always defend herself, saying my wife was exaggerating in any ways. This is good practice for when your kid gets here. We'd argue over it until she promised to help out. Nothing has improved, and even worse, she started to say inappropriate things to my wife, like implying the baby probably isn't mine, because she's seen how hot our neighbor is and would constantly ask my wife if he's the real father. Our pregnancy was an unplanned yet happy surprise, so anytime my wife complained about how tired she was or how much her ankles ached, my sister would always comment that we should have terminated. The final nail in the coffin was the other night when my sister said something about my wife's weight that made her cry. My wife's belly has really grown and it's made her extremely self-conscious. When my sister saw her, she said, Jesus, are you sure you're not having triplets? And then laughed it off. When my wife left crying, her response was saying my wife was so dramatic, and she doesn't know how I put up with her crying all the time. The issue with my sister is ever since we were little, she's always had this habit of saying whatever comes to mind, no matter how rude or insensitive it is, and to her, she acts like they're jokes. She never cared if it hurt anyone's feelings. I am so sick of her, and it's putting a lot of stress on my wife. I want to do what's best for my wife and kick my sister out, but with how things are right now, I don't know where she can go. And I feel it wouldn't be fair to my nieces, since this isn't their fault. Yes, she lost her husband, and she's not used to having to take care of herself, let alone her family. But I have my wife and our baby to think about. I really want her out of the house by the end of the week. I just don't know how bad that would make me as her older brother to make her leave with no other home to go to. Next story. Refusing to give my sister more money for her lavish lifestyle. Now my family is pressuring me to help her out. Hey everyone, I 34F need some perspective because my family is making me feel like the world's worst person right now. So, for context, I've spent the last 10 years building my own online business from scratch. It wasn't easy. There were years of no sleep, constant stress, and scraping by while I poured everything into this. Fast forward to now, and I'm doing well financially, like really well. But I worked hard for this. Nothing came easy, and I gave up a lot to get to where I am now. Then there's my younger sister, Amy 29F. Amy has, well, a bit of a spending problem. She's always loved the finer things in life, designer bags, fancy vacations, expensive dinners. But unlike me, she doesn't really work for it. She just kind of floats between jobs or relies on credit cards to fund her lifestyle. Over the past few years, Amy's come to me for money multiple times. At first, it was small stuff, like needing help with rent or her credit card bills. And being her sister, I helped. I felt bad for her and thought maybe she'd get things under control. But she didn't. If anything, her spending habits just got worse. Every time I'd give her money, she'd go out and buy some luxury item or take a random trip to somewhere extravagant. A few weeks ago, she asked me for help again. This time, she wanted a lot of money to cover her debt. I'm talking thousands. And I just couldn't. I told her no, that I wasn't going to keep bailing her out unless she seriously changed her spending habits. I even suggested she start budgeting and maybe cut back on all the unnecessary stuff. Well, she didn't take that well. Amy accused me of being selfish and greedy. She said that because I'm doing well financially, it's cruel not to help her out when she's struggling. She even threw in that it's easy for me because I don't have the same pressures as she does. But here's the kicker. My family's on her side. My parents, who are aware of Amy's spending, are still saying I should help her because family helps family. They've been calling me cold and heartless for not giving her what she needs, saying that I'm just letting her drown while I'm sitting comfortably. And my cousins are backing them up, saying it's not a big deal for me since I'm financially well off now. But I worked my ass off to get here. I didn't just wake up one day with money. I sacrificed my social life, didn't travel for years, lived in a crappy apartment, all so I could build something for myself. And I feel like they're completely ignoring that part. They just see me as someone with money now, so they think it's my obligation to help her out. Honestly, I'm torn. I don't want to be the sister who lets her family down, but I also feel like enabling Amy is doing her no favors. She's never going to learn to manage her finances if I keep rescuing her. Plus, I kind of feel like it's unfair for them to expect me to hand over my hard-earned money because she can't control her spending.